Okay. Yes I am. Alright, back in the game. So, while my son's been asleep, I've been progressing and just generally going forward. So what I'm going to do is kind of run you past some of the bits I've stuck in. So the original synths I was working with, you've got all the drums up the top here. I've done a few little fills and a couple of bits which I'll try and go through, and I've taken out a couple of sections as well for a little bit of breakdowns here and there. And then what I've done is, so let's put the synths I was on before, which is the kind of main ultra compressed chords. Don't really want them to be that compressed, but I've had a faff about it and I can't sort it out with the bass, which I know should be mono, right? Really, from a mixing purpose. But just the choral sound of it, I really like it. So I'm going to leave it alone for now. Get a second opinion on it probably. Then we've got this synth here, which is that kind of low Omnisphere one, which you can probably barely hear. Really nice. Cordial, I've used it as the kind of intro. Bunch of these yellow things, probably would explain this, but these are all the sound effects. I've basically gone into different sound effects banks that I've got and built up over the years. I've chucked a load of them in and see what works, put some additional effects on some of them, done a little bit of EQ into them and that kind of thing. Then I got these two parts here, which are just, so I'm going to just go through this quite a while I'm here. So this first one, just a little sort of shutter sweep. And all I've put on it a little EQing, so it sits in the background, taking the level down, and then I've put a little sound effect called Finisher Micro, and it basically just sort of, I think I might have done this already actually, but you can write in, as you can see here, I've written in some automation. Which is great for working effects and filters and things like that in kind of dance music especially, and some in cinematic as well, to be honest. I've set it up with a thing called Big Hair, and so I'm just sweeping this little filter up, almost like a high pass filter, low pass filter, at the end of the bars, so you can just hear it. I've got it on permanently, just on low, and then as we get near to the end of the bar, you hear it start to ramp up. And it's got a tiny bit of reverb on it, so that just gives a little bit of movement at the end of each bar. And then underneath that I've got the little delayed keys that I was working on, just a little pulse. And what I've done to some of these is I've reversed a few of them, I've pitch shifted all of them so they should all be in tune. And that last one's really weird when you hear on its own. What I've done is a pitch envelope on that one. So the normal pitch shift, say we grab this one here, and then you go on to process pitch shift, and usually you get the transpose, which you can't see right now. Let's move it over there so you can see it. So you get transpose, which is fairly straightforward. You can transpose tones, semitones, you can fine tune, pick your root note, etc, right? And you just write in what you want, shift some all around, then pitch. But the end one, this last one here, I've done an envelope, right? So what I've done is I basically have it, see that technical term? So I've basically got the whole pitch going down. Now it sounds a bit weird on its own, but it kind of works when it's in the mix. So again, it's really quiet because it's set back quite far. So that's those two blue audio tracks, which only really feature here. Tiny nod to them over here on the right. I then found this weird and wonderful Electro Static sample that I'd taken ages ago. It's one I made through a little recording box I had, and then ran through some processes and blah blah blah. And what I've done to this, let's just give you the original sample as is. Again, it might be really quiet here, but right, I think it's a fridge. I think it's just a fridge. Love it, right? And what I've done is on the track itself, I've done a kind of panner here in the middle, pointing to the screen again. I don't know why I do that, you can't see my finger. Here, where the cursor is. So I've done a little panner, so it starts and finishes in central, moves to the right, I think. Is that right or is that left? That's left, of course it is. It's the opposite to what I thought it was. Anyway, you can see how it pans through the ear rolls. And then I've added another little micro fin, which gives it another effect. Right, so it's warping it out. And then I've written in, as you can see here, like a little envelope there. So again, and then I've put, it's got a nasty click on it, isn't it? Didn't notice that in the mix. Then I've put guitar rig again, another special effects. So specialised effects. Don't want to speak to spam calls. Who wants to speak to spam calls? No one. A special effects feature here. It's warping it out even more. It's quite bass heavy, so I've stuck an EQ on it. Very basic EQ. Just kind of allows that one little clicky sound through that I want. Cuts off some of that sub that I don't really want to interfere with everything. And then a tiny bit of compression on the top of it. Probably not really necessary if I'm honest. And that is the end result. Again, it's probably really quiet in your ears actually, to be fair. So just for a second I'm going to whack it up. Why is that? Still going. There's quite a bit of feedback on that. So it just adds a whole ton of movement. But what I noticed is because there's this click, this, which is caused by guitar rig, I've then on the final, sorry I didn't show you this, on the final little layer here, I've basically turned it off and on. Very basic. Okay, so in the rest of the track, when it's not playing, that click's not going to happen, which would probably be very annoying. Okay, so let's go on to, so I think I was working on this synth possibly when I left. I don't really remember. I have to watch the video back. But I think I was. So I'm gonna mute off all the sound effects for a second, just so you can hear the intro, and then into this electric bit, which I'm hoping I'll just reset. I'm not 100% sure. I did. Good. Again, it's pretty quiet. Hear how that Electro Static is adding a little bit of movement, just sort of subtly. If anything, it probably needs to run again. But there is another couple of effects I've put in here. Okay, so this again is a long ass intro, it's quite a long track. So I'm going to free up these effects now to show you some of the stuff I've thrown on here. And also what I think about it. Also fade down. so I've got basically put in here a nice riser, which I've then taken. Actually, this is different, I think. So yeah, so all I've done is I've pitched these into the right key. I've got a nice little sort of splashy bit just to kind of lead you in, then the riser and the riser reversed to kick the track off, which then feeds in, and the Electro Static sound starts up with the chords just to add that little bit of movement, and also at that point the drums are dropping in. Right, last time. I'll let it run this time. So on the riser as well, I just stuck one of my favourites, Valhalla. Nice and washy, reverby. Okay, so the next sound effect I've got cutting in here, you may not believe it. This one is a door getting slammed and opened. A real physical door that I recorded getting slammed and opened, and then all I've done is I've put a Valhalla shimmer on it and a Valhalla reverb on it, so it's just a massive space. So you can't really hear the door slam, but again, it's just for atmosphere, really. Barely make it out, but that's it in the background. So I had to try and pitch it to get it to sound okay initially, which is hilarious, isn't it? Pitching a door getting slammed, but there you are, that's where we're at. So yeah, nice big intro. Intro moves about a bit. I've changed it up from the main body screen. Changed it up from the main body synth. Just to kind of take you on a bit of a journey. Obvious, another sound effect. There I've got a nice big reverbed out kick. It's really soft. Comes in second riser. I'm not 100% sure about that drop yet, but what I've tried to do is pan some of these effects left and right, just to give a bit of space and a little bit of movement into the track. Some of these poppy delay keys things here, still not 100% sure if they work, but and the drop-ins, which is these two sort of kicks here. Another lead synth here. Bring it to the synths. I've left it tucked back a bit. Don't want it to be too dominating, and that main body synth is quite thick anyway, so if you scroll up you can see I've had a little kind of drum break out there. breakbeat section. It'll filter in across here. Dropped out the main body synth. Another little thing I should probably show you here is with this riser, I can stop shouting now. What I've done just at the end, the last kind of quarter, I've cut it into 16s and I've just muted 4 of the offbeats just to give that little jagged edge. So let's just listen to that again into the drop where the bass carries on. Breakbeat features. For this section, I've kept it really simple, just follows the 4 chords, the 4 notes, for a bit of comfy familiarity. And this is where I've started to add the main body of my sound effects here. Just to try and give a little space and variety. To mix as I go a little bit, so I'm hoping this is quite close now. I might just do a kind of final mix in a second. I'm just going to pause now and quickly show you this. So for this little section here, this is the little drop out before the final section. And all I've done is I've taken my kicks here, and rather than run them on the 4/4, 1, 2, 3, 4, I've put in 16 triplets into the, or quarter triplets, sorry, into the so the quantize, and then I've done a bap 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 with the drum, and there's a little fill just runs underneath here, so it gives this effect. I'll just go backwards for a second. Just a little variety, and what I've done is I've taken the velocity down on each one, so it's almost like it's a delay echo running through there, and that then brings us on to the last big section where I've tried to bring in the main lead synth doing something slightly different, the main chord synth doing something slightly different, and the lead synth playing away in the background as well. And our good old friend, the fridge. Electro Static fridge. What should I call this track? Tiny little outro. Take the track out. It's 5.5 minutes. Quite, it's quite long. Put my. I don't really want that length of tail, but I'll probably fade out the end. So what I'm going to do now, because I'm quite happy with it. I don't think it needs any more. Certainly not for purpose. I need to do a kind of final mix over the top. And then what I should do in this video is once I've done my final kind of stereo out mix, I'll stick the track at the end of this video so you can have a listen to the final article. Okay, thanks for watching.